So it is now January 27th, and I had anticipated filming this writing sample goals type vlog earlier, and I did get started a little bit in December, and I was hoping to post this either the first week of January or the second. But then I got a little sick and I had to postpone it, and I lost most of my voice. So I also could not post another book haul that I had already pre filmed. I just had to do the voiceover. But it was difficult to do that without a voice, obviously. So I had to postpone that as well. So I am going to try to pick up where I left off with the productive streak I had going, and also talk a little bit about the writing sample because one of my goals is to enter into a master's program, hopefully this year. And part of that requires I complete a statement of purpose, paragraph, and also a writing sample. So I am going to basically kind of voice over and share what I have done so far, and then I'm going to pick up where I left off, hopefully in those clips, and then come back here and kind of browse through my writing sample, see where I am, see what I need to do. I already looked at the thesis statement, and I'll go over that a little bit later after the clips. So I'm going to try and take you along with me for the reading of my writing sample. I don't want to share every single detail, but I will cover the general topic that I'm trying to write about, and then some thoughts as I go and whatever else I think would be useful or important to share. So preview first. Since this was pre-filmed over a month ago, I will try my best to recall important pieces of my productivity during these sessions. To backtrack a little, I just want to preface by saying I remember working on a few quick tasks that I needed to finish, then brace myself to tackle this writing sample topic. For the writing sample, I could have used one of my numerous papers from college, but I completed those on a deadline, which means they were, quote, good enough and not spectacular in my opinion. So I decided I would rather turn in something that I put my 100% effort into without a deadline, in hopes that it would be more well thought out and written. Like I said in my intro, I had a vague idea or two of where I wanted to take my topic, which was law and or education related. So I started off my journey trying to gather random pieces of information that I could compile to give me some ideas before formulating any of my own. I wanted to gather basic information on the structure of adoption through law, then go from there. Since I was only trying to gather some information, I was not particular about the source in that I was not looking strictly for peer-reviewed sources to cite in my paper, since this was a beginning stage. However, since I now have a better idea, I know more of what I'm looking for, so the next set of sources will need to be peer-reviewed and or at least have more credibility behind them rather than a simple random website on the internet with no author listed and so forth. I forget what I typed in the Google search box to get this information, but what I found was interesting and helped me a lot with my structuring of the thesis. I am hoping this is the order in which I found these sources, but like I said, it has been a little while. The first source I found mentioned foster care and legal issues, giving me a few questions with answers to think about. Some questions I felt pertained to this research, and some were not quite as useful, If I felt it necessary to save certain terms, definitions, phrases, or other information that I could use as keywords, I saved them in my Xstyles page that I created for this writing sample project, where I keep my quick notes, linked sources, and my rough draft paragraphs. My next source during this visit was regarding the welfare laws, so I browsed through this website page as well to gather more information. This source listed some bills that were placed into law and gave me the year in which these were placed. It was at this point that I started wrapping up my research at the coffee cafe where I was working on this project. However, many days later, I forget the exact timeline, I proceeded to research this further at a library where I used dictionaries for terms and searched for other resources and material that would seem more legitimate than the basic websites I found in my previous research session. I did find a couple of books that I felt could be useful to support my arguments, but I really need to find more sources to help me refine and curate the supporting evidence I need for my thesis. So that was a recap of my research. Now onto my more current thoughts. Okay, so my topic is going to be on adoption. I kind of played with a few different ideas on what I wanted to do. I did have a sort of path that I wanted to go down, but after doing some research, I ended up curving my initial path and shifting gears a little bit on the more narrowed topic. So my general topic is adoption, but I, after the research, wanted to incorporate something law related and or education related. So I just kind of thought back to some of my material that I found in my research and compiled some thoughts based on what I read, and some ideas came to me, and I kind of put that together a little bit in an Xstyles spreadsheet thing that I created. And so I'm going to try to flesh out my thesis. I did go over my thesis statement again, and I feel like it's more solid. I do feel like I need to probably reword the thesis statement, but I have a pretty good general solid idea of where I want to go with it, and I'm combining what I wanted to discuss in the main thesis statement. So I know where I'm going with it. I just need to figure out how to reword the thesis because I'm not too happy with how it's worded, but I do feel a sense of contentment based on the concept of it, if that makes sense. So I know what I'm going to write about finally. I'm still putting thoughts together on that. And then I have been trying to find different stories. I think I found a couple of different books based on true events. So I'm going to try to pull from that. And then I have a couple other ideas I want to incorporate into my, I don't want to say argument, but for lack of a better term, argument, and some things I want to include in the body paragraphs. So I'm going to be doing that. Okay, so I looked over the intro again and I cleaned it up a little bit. I found a sentence in there that I I was trying to say something. I just don't know what I was trying to say, to be honest with you. Is that a me thing, or does that happen? Because you know how you write a sentence and it makes so much sense in the moment when you write it, but then when you go back to read it, you're wondering what it's doing there, and because I guess the thought was not clearly articulated. Yeah. So I just highlight that so that way I could come back to it. Maybe I'll remember what I was trying to say, but if not, then I will take that out. But the intro is looking better. And so now I'm just trying to get some ideas and figure out how I'm going to structure the body paragraphs. So that's going to be the next project that I'm tackling.